Progressives. Unfortunately, I'm back to talk about the horrible topic of police terror because it is directly affecting me in my community as well as all of us in all of our communities, whether we understand this or not. So this is something that I'll keep going back to over and over again because this is something we all have to talk about and understand to overcome. Okay, police terror is not a small deal. This is a huge problem that radicalizes our society and is counterproductive to the general welfare of society, which is government mandate. So let's talk a little bit about police terror and what I mean when I say police terror. Okay, first of all, I'll say all cops are bad, and people automatically get a horrible, they get defensive, and they, want to say, oh, well, I know police officers that are good, how dare you? All right, first of all, so let me say, in full disclosure, I come from a police family. My uncle was a cop, God rest his soul. He died in '08. So I had the same feelings, I had the same resistance, but we can't shy away from the truth, regardless what it implicates and what it means. We have to talk about the truth, and the truth is good people, even good people, will do horrible things, especially when they're ordered to do so by a perceived authority. They dub this the Lucifer effect, and it's very evident if you watch the Stanford experiments, how this works. But yeah, when people are ordered to do something by a perceived authority figure, they have a sort of diminished moral capacity. Okay, they sort of, they think that the authority had already taken into consideration all moral questions, and already decided that the action is moral. And so they're able to kind of like defer their own culpability by taking an order. And this is, we see this all through history. It's a scientific fact. This is how Nazi Germany happens. All right. So cops legally rob, rape, and kill people over evil flowers. Okay, all in the name of corporate profits, but many of them don't even understand that. But it doesn't change the final thing. So if you are pledging support for an organization and pledging to carry out the laws of that organization, for our country, whatever, and many of those laws are unjust and are inhumane, then by definition, you can't be good. All right, that's like saying that, not all ISIS members are bad, or not all Nazi members are bad, and in reality, in the Nazi party, many of the people weren't bad in their personal lives. They were good family men. Their families loved them. Their kids thought they were heroes too, just like anybody else. They're not monsters. That's the scary part. That's what we have to understand. They're non-monsters. This is a systemic way to make us monsters, without even understanding it. And we don't want to talk about it. We get so easily offended when we speak truths. People get so offended when I say it's wrong to rape a girl for 5 hours to the point where she has vaginal tearing, because they're looking for marijuana. And I'm the radical? Really? I mean, to me, that sounds kind of like Sharia law, okay? But, I'm the radical. I'm the crazy one. When I say that it's wrong for cops to seize your bank accounts and take your house, take your property, without even charging you with a crime, I'm the radical. Really? Okay, so this is the thing. This is what I'm talking about. People get killed legally over weed warrants. So cops legally rape, rob, and kill over evil flowers and crimes of vice, crimes of consent among consenting adults. They criminalize nature and peaceful behavior. It has nothing to do with public safety. All right. Every illegal drug, just about every illegal drug has a legal synthetic, okay, counterpart. It has a legal counterpart synthetic and the for-profit healthcare side. It's all about profits. That's what this is all about. Things like marijuana cut into so many different corporate profits, you know, that the status quo obviously wants to keep this stuff illegal. You know, it could cut into big pharma's profits, big oil's profits. You know, it cuts into prison for profit, you know, the prison for profit industry. You know, it stops all of this stuff. Plus, you know, this is how they keep us, you know, precarious, quite frankly. They keep us scared, and they keep, you know, they're able to better control the people, you know, in this way, you know, with a very bad outcome to society. Okay, in other words. So when cops are inflicting inhumane law, they're being radicalized. They're being desensitized. Okay, and the people that they are terrorizing are also being radicalized. They're being desensitized. Okay, and then also the people watching from afar. When that young girl in my town was raped by the police at the hospital for 5 hours, causing vaginal tearing, it was in the paper. She brought a federal suit against them. You know, they were actually joking while she was spread eagle. You know, the DA was in her ear telling her this could all be over, give us some information. And she had no information to give. They found nothing. And she actually lost her suit. But people in my town had to become indifferent to her suffering. They had to say, oh, well, she probably deserved it. She probably ran with the wrong people. You know, so, you know, because if we understood the truth, this could be our daughter. This could be our son. Anybody. You know, cop pulls you over and has a bad day or is attracted to your daughter, they could take her in and have her medically raped and be joking about it in between her legs. All right, this is legal. So when you give the cops that kind of power, I mean, it's no good unless the person has a hand grenade inside them. But over flowers, I mean, seriously, this is no reason to be able to, you know, violate somebody's rights, their God-given rights, violate their body, you know, because rape isn't about, you know, sex. It's about power, all right? And it's the same thing here, you know, and so this radicalizes all of society, you know. When you beat a dog every day and you feed it gunpowder every day, that dog is going to be crazy. It's not the dog's fault. It's the systemic factors that dog was forced to live under. Right? And it's the same with society. We target unemployment. This is intentional systemic poverty. All right? We've been doing this since the 70s. That's economic terrorism. It's artificial scarcity that kills more than guns and drugs combined. Then on top of all of it, we criminalize nature and peaceful behavior. All right? And so cops legally rape, rob, and kill over evil flowers, all in the name of corporate profit. All right? And all of this stuff teaches our kids from birth to put profits over people in society. Okay? Every time they see a homeless person and around the corner they see an empty foreclosed house, that's what they're being taught, to put profit over people in society. Every time they see a person's life thrown away over evil flower, you know, that's what they're being taught, to put profit over people in society, even if it's only subconscious. That's what they're being taught. Every time they see people suffer and die of easily treatable, preventable diseases because of a lack of cash, that's what they're being taught, to put profit over people in society. And then our government at the same time is cutting the social safety net. Things like mental health and education. All right, and you following me here? And then on top of it all, we drug our kids with for-profit drugs like Adderall. All right, that's basically cocaine and tons of other psychotropic drugs for profit. Yeah, that's the problem. When we do this, you know, we are radicalizing our whole society. We're making it a dog-eat-dog world. We're making ourselves the precarious class. All right, and when you always have people at the bottom suffering and in pain, you're not going to have civil society. It's impossible to have a civil society that way. When you let cops rape, rob, and kill people, they're going to become, desensitized. They're going to become radicalized. They're not going to be good citizens in other parts of their lives, But even if somehow, there's people that are good family men, all right, and they go to work and they follow their orders, all right, and they're able to do horrible things because they're ordered to do so. When they throw people away over weed, they don't think to themselves, wow, I just ruined a life, broke up a family because, over a flower. Where's the logic in this? They don't think about it. They just say, oh, yeah, them are horrible. Drugs are horrible. They kill. Yet we're making synthetic versions of THC so that 1% of the population can make profit. It has nothing to do with public safety. All right, we fight for-profit wars all around the world. We team up with right-wing fundamentalist groups, and we turn our back. We help them sell drugs to fund their black operations. All right, this is common knowledge. It's well documented. Look up the Contras. Look up Afghanistan, the proxy war in Afghanistan. We armed, trained, and funded the Taliban against the proxy war in Russia, all right, over communism. And we turned a blind eye to all the human rights violations, all right? Then when we go in later in 2001, we take them out. Now, Afghanistan becomes the hotbed for heroin. We flood the whole world with cheap heroin. And at the same time, domestically, we're criminalizing nature and peaceful behavior. We're making more draconian drug laws. So we cut down on the legal supply of opiates, from doctors and things like that, and we flood the world with cheap, really good heroin. I wonder what's going to happen. People that need these drugs to survive are going to have to go on the black market and play doctor. Without the medical oversight, without the regulations, people die. They start ODing left and right. We could do far better by legalizing all vice for the general welfare of society, because the black market don't care about kids. It don't care about, the general welfare of society or addiction. Right? That's our government's job. That's why we empower our government to sit in authority over all. Government can have so much more control by legalizing and regulating all vice for the general welfare of society. Then, we're not diverting all these resources into crimes of consent. We have all these resources now available to protect kids, to protect victims, okay? The black markets would be severely diminished. Things would get a lot better. Everybody, would have hope. There would be resources in place to get people help, to get clean, all right? And profit wouldn't even come into the conversation because our government never needs profit. Our government can fully fund all rehabs if it wanted to, with a congressional bill, okay? That's how our government never needs to look for money. That's why this is such a sin when you think about it. Policing for profit, rehabs for profit, prisons, it's all, unnecessary and pointless. Our government never needs profit. That's the whole point. It's constitutionally mandated to mint and tax to provide for the general welfare of society. That's the whole thing, so our government can, meet our basic needs in the public sector for free. And then we can leave the luxury items to the private sector. At that point, who cares? Capitalism's irrelevant. All right, we don't need to end capitalism before government can do its job and save lives. We don't need to tax the rich or cut the fence or end the Fed before government can save lives and do its job today. And I'm sick of people saying it. Want to be progressives, want to be revolutionaries. They're defeatists. They work for the ruling class, whether they realize it or not. They're going around, killing inspiration, diverting people from operational reality. They're keeping us from uniting in solidarity. That's not revolutionary. Saying we can't save lives until we end capitalism, that's not revolutionary. These people just want to, play dress up revolutionary. They want to pump their hands in the air without ever offering a solution. A solution is not a community garden, guys. There's no evidence to ever suggest a barter economy for a huge society. We have 300 million people. Many of those people are vulnerable, desperate, okay, disenfranchised. They need tons of needs. The only way to mass produce all the needs of all the people in our society is through central planning, through the government spending and taxing. That's the whole thing. That's how we organize, utilize, and distribute real resources for the general welfare per the Constitution. It's not radical. What's radical is our status quo. Again, you know, our government creates unemployment with taxation. It's sadistic to leave them unemployed without a means of paid employment. It's sadistic. Our government makes them unemployed. It should spend the dollars into existence to utilize their production value, to provide for the general welfare of society. This is how government got us to stop living off the land and start working for the general welfare of society in the first place. Government puts tax on the private sector. Then they're instantly unemployed. They're willing to sell their goods and labor for dollars so that they could pay their tax, stay free, and keep their stuff. That's the whole thing. Taxation and spending is just a means of production to drive real resources from the private sector to the public sector for the general welfare or the public purpose. That's the whole point. So dollars are just a law to satisfy a tax. We can never run out of laws, so we can never run out of dollars. The money part of the equation doesn't even matter. All right, that's always infinite for our federal government. All that matters is we have enough real resources available to buy with that money. So all that really matters is our government keeps investing in strengthening our productive capacity, which is all the things we're talking about here. A federal job guarantees a democratic means of production, capable of increasing any production that we need for the general welfare. That's the whole thing. We'd have labor for single payer, labor for green sustainable energy, labor for education, kindergarten through college for free for everyone, and it would be a boom. It would help our economy. This is the same thing we did during World War II. The people rose up and they forced our socially owned government to satisfy its constitutional mandate to the general welfare, first and foremost. And we got the full employment policies of the New Deal. This balanced the economy for 40 years. The majority of federal spending went to the bottom 90%. You could get a good career straight out of high school and support a family with one income. That's the whole thing, all right? Because now in the neoliberal period, they got us complacent after all that good of the New Deal. And then we bought into the right-wing neoliberal narrative in the 70s. Both parties killed the full employment policies of the New Deal. Everybody has been targeting unemployment ever since. All right, and that's the primary reason why our wages and have been stagnant since the 70s, while productivity, corporate profits, and cost of living are at record highs. Because our government, our socially owned government, it keeps a buffer stock of unemployed for capital to wage a war on labor with. That puts downward pressure on all labor wages and working conditions. Now the boss don't have to give you a job. They just say, hey, I got millions of people outside so desperate they're willing to do your job cheaper. And it puts downward pressure on all labor wages. It's wage suppression, fascism, class warfare. All right, when we do all that stuff, it's radicalizing our society, because when you can't eat, civility goes out the window. And this is evident. This is basic logic. And none of it is necessary. Like I said, policing for profit, imperialism for profit, all of this stuff is not necessary. We could fully fund all police departments today. And then they don't have to engage in policing for profit to operate. It's that simple. We can give everybody a federally guaranteed living wage job today and maximize our productive capacity to meet everybody's base needs in America, raise everybody's standard of living, in America. Why on earth shouldn't we do that? We don't need to raise taxes. We don't need to make cuts. That's the whole thing. We wouldn't be precarious anymore. Then you will see a real solution to crime, a real drop in crime, a real drop in violence, disease, addiction. All of these things go down. You'll see the family unit become strong again. All right. You'll see, all the things that you should see when discussing the richest country in the world. This is insane. We went from, like I said, the Great Depression to the #1 superpower in the world. We put a person on the moon. Okay, you're telling me that the only way we could survive is on the backs of our most vulnerable and disenfranchised by targeting unemployment? That's insanity. It doesn't make sense. The government's job is not profit for the 1%. The government's job is the general welfare. We need to stop making profits for the 1% at everybody else's expense. All right, we need to stop inflicting police terror by criminalizing nature and peaceful behavior. Legalize all vice for the general welfare of society. And I know a lot of people will say, oh, well, then demand will go through the roof. No, it won't. People that went their whole lives, staying away from the trap of addiction are not going to wake up tomorrow suddenly and want to be a crackhead. They're not going to want to suddenly shoot heroin. It doesn't work like that. If you look up the Rat Park study, it's an interesting study, and they're social creatures like humans, so it's very relevant. But it shows, they didn't want the drugs. They didn't want drugs until they were locked in solitary confinement. Their existence was miserable. Then they wanted loaded all the time. Shocker. But they would actually willingly go through physical detox to get back into the free society of rats. And then they wouldn't take the drugs in that free society. And it's the same with humans. I'm an addict, I know. Believe me, we don't use because it's fun. As a matter of fact, that's the whole thing. You're a slave. Nobody wants to be a slave. All right? I can't be happy. I'm in pain all day long. Every day. The drugs are keeping me alive. They keep me from hanging it up. Literally. I'm a disabled vet, multiple spinal surgeries. Okay? And the doctor won't give me anything. The doctor says that, they're too afraid of the DEA to be compassionate and do their job. Even though their Hippocratic oath says first do no harm, that's exactly what they do out of self-preservation. I can't really even blame the doctors, because they put $250,000, get an education, go get a job as a doctor. You can't really expect them to put it all on the line because, with the DEA, with their terrorist tactics, I still blame the doctors, though. I put the ultimate culpability on we, the people, for allowing this, for allowing it in the first place. The fact of the matter is, drugs should be illegal for kids. That's it. And obviously sex work and stuff should be illegal for kids, but that's it. Consenting adults should be able to do what they want without interference. I have the right to do whatever I want to do as long as I don't infringe on the rights of the next person or infringe on the rights of the general welfare of society. Okay, that's how it works. So if I want to stay up all night snorting cocaine and playing strip poker with hookers, that's my business. I'm not bothering nobody else. That's my business. Nobody should be able to stop me. I have the right to pursue happiness, as I see. Now, whether you agree with that, with how you get happiness, that's on you. Happiness is a subjective term, okay? And we are all free to make our own mistakes, or we're supposed to be, And in reality, drugs have been with humankind from the very beginning, all right? People have always looked for alternative. They've always looked to achieve altered states of consciousness, and they've always used drugs to do that. A lot of, brilliant minds think this is, instrumental in our development as humankind and our evolution, because it allowed a lot of people to start thinking outside the box in more abstract terms. Drugs can save lives too. People forget that. In a lot of different ways they save lives. It's a tool. It could be used for good or bad. Freedom is about personal responsibility. All right. If I do something bad, it's not the drug's fault. It's my fault. All right. Fuck. I mean, this is crazy. Americans, I don't know. Sometimes I'm ashamed of my American brothers and sisters. This is sickening. All right. We have rights and yet the people don't care when they're, stomped all over, for the profits of the 1%. That's it. They get us to believe these right-wing lies. Oh, everyone will be addicted. Oh, drugs will go crazy. It'll be horrible in the streets. Really, that's how it is right now. If the drug war was producing results, yeah, maybe you're right. But the fact of the matter is it's gotten exponentially worse. And every time we inflict more draconian laws, it gets worse. More violence, more disease. That's a fact. I didn't make these facts. I'm pointing them out. We need to focus on harm reduction, not prohibition. People won't be in the streets stealing your stuff in your community to get high. People won't be leaving dirty needles in your community for your kids to play on in the playgrounds. All right, we'll have a measure of control. Like I said, and the government should do this. It's the government's mandate, the general welfare of society. They could fully fund all public purpose programs today. If we have the real resources to meet the demand for any program, we can always afford that program without raising taxes or making cuts, and the spending will always be non-inflationary. So please understand, learn MMT. All problems in our economy are rooted in economics. They all have their macroeconomic solutions. All right. The answer is not more police terror. The answer is not more economic terror. And I forgot to even mention about why I was even doing this show. A real progressive, Jenna Queen, sent me a video of my own town in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. One of our officers on the Newcastle police force is beating a handcuffed man's face off the ground. It looks like the guy dies. Literally, there's blood everywhere. It is a sickening video. And I sent our DA, our district attorney, Josh Lamacusa. I sent him that video with a plea for help to do the right thing. Come on, real progressives. Discuss this case with me. Discuss solutions to these problems that are plaguing our society, because he ultimately is in a position to pull the curtain back and to show the people the truth and to talk about the truth. I introduced him to LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. And I urge all of you to check this out too. LEAP, L-E-A-P, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. All right, this is a bunch of retired law enforcement people, retired judges, retired DAs that see the folly of the drug war. After spending their life, enforcing it, they see how counterproductive it truly is and how pointless, how it solves nothing but only makes more problems, and they speak out. These are heroes, but yet we don't see them on the mainstream news. They all want to talk about, respect for law enforcement, but they call these guys quacks and kooks, or communists, or, some other stupid stuff. All right. The fact of the matter is, change is only going to come from the bottom up. So me and you, we're the ones that have to get this started. You see with now MMT breaking into the mainstream now. All right. People like Dr. Stephanie Kelton and Steve Grumbine smashed through the Overton's window and changed the national dialogue. People, for better or worse, are talking about a federal job guarantee now. All right. And people like right-wing neoliberals like Cory Booker are now, pushing a job guarantee, a pilot program. This is the revolutionary progressive program from which other programs will flow. If you push the real federal jobs guarantee without pointless added on paid for taxes, then you're representing the bottom income distribution first and foremost. All right, it's just a fact. I don't care who it is. So we need to support that. All right, because the only way you balance a capitalist consumer-driven economy is by spending at the bottom. When we guarantee the jobs of the bottom income distribution, because they make up the largest segment of society, the more dollars they have, the more they guarantee the jobs and the services of the skilled and educated above them. Demand naturally travels up. It doesn't trickle down. It's a simple logic. Trickle down has the bottom income distribution in a permanent depression. All right, the bottom income distribution under trickle down is the first to be fired in an economic downturn. They're the last to be hired in an economic uptick. That leaves the bottom in a perpetual state of pain and agony, and it drags down everybody's standard of living. It makes everybody crazy. And like I said, we're all desensitized. We all have to all become indifferent to human suffering. All right, and move on. We're in the matrix. It's time to step out of the damn matrix. All right, and the blue pill is MMT. That's it. The blue pill is the truth, the reality, and we all have to learn it to overcome anything in society. Because if you don't know how to pay for it, your plan is not going to come to fruition. It's that simple. These cops are literally killing people because of the color of their skin, or because they can and they don't have power rushes. In Newcastle, it's known. If you run from the cops, when they catch you, you're getting a beating. Okay? And if you ask most people on the streets, they'll even agree. And these are poor people. That's how brainwashed they got us. They don't understand how violence begets more violence, right? They'll tell social justice warriors, oh, you don't want to be violent, but they never focus on legal state violence perpetrated against the people all the time. Economic terror is violence perpetrated against the people. Government makes unemployment. For it to target unemployment and keep intentional systemic poverty throughout our communities in America, that is violence. I don't care. That is violence, the worst kind. All right? So we have to stop this. We have to stand up and speak out. We have to be outraged. And we can't be afraid to speak the truth. My mom didn't want me to share the video about the Newcastle cops. She thinks I'm going to be targeted. And it is. There's a high chance that I may be, because the blue wall is real and it's alive. And as I said, I know these cops, and they don't like the fact that I speak out. I even went onto the Newcastle website when the girl was raped and put a huge review about it. You could go there and look, Newcastle Police Department, NCPD, their website. And they actually shared one of my posts and said that I'm an American terrorist. And I'm everything that's wrong with America, really. Because I want to stop pointless suffering and death, I'm wrong. Because I want everybody that wants a full-time living wage job to be able to have that, I'm wrong. I thought the right and everybody, they wanted people to work. They thought that we were moochers and that we just all wanted free stuff. I watched on Fox News yesterday. They're saying, oh, Bernie Sanders is proposing a job guarantee. They all want free stuff. Really? It's free stuff? A job? Since when is a job free stuff? America, like always, will be paying people to provision society with real resources. There's nothing free about that. It's free for the government because they make their own money. But we're getting paid. People are getting paid for services rendered. There's nothing free about that. We can have it be free for the end user. All right. If we're paying teachers to give education, or teachers' aides, we don't need to charge the students for profit because the government never needs profit. All right. If we're paying doctors and healthcare technicians to give healthcare to the people, we don't need to charge the people for the end product, because that's the whole point. The government doesn't need, money. What the government needs is a strong productive capacity. That's why the government is mandated to provide for the general welfare. So we need top-notch free education for all, because only smart kids can produce all of our needs of tomorrow. We need top-notch health care for everybody, free, because sick and miserable people can't produce all of our needs of tomorrow. We need green, sustainable energy, 100% green, sustainable energy, because we don't want to deplete our natural resources and poison ourselves in the process. And the most important, we need to maximize our productive capacity to meet everybody's base needs, to raise everybody's standard of living with a federally guaranteed living wage job for every person who wants one. All right? That's how we overcome the systemic abuses that are radicalizing so many people to kill in the first place, to be crazy in the first place, to exploit humans in the first place. All right? Everything goes back to this. Understand this. This is real. This is revolutionary. We, the people, have all the power collectively. If you think that we don't, then you're not going to rise up and fight back, but we actually do. And it's a real simple logic way you can understand it. If the majority unites in solidarity tomorrow and stays home from work, America grinds to a halt. All right? I don't care who is in office on that day. All right? It doesn't matter. They lose. They have to meet our demands, which aren't even radical to begin with. It's simply the government satisfy its constitutional mandate to the general welfare by balancing the economy and society with a federally guaranteed living wage job for everyone who wants one. True full employment. They project about $600 billion a year for this program. That is so cheap compared to the cost of keeping a buffer stock of unemployed for capital to wage war on labor with. You take the addiction epidemic alone right now. They're estimating $1 trillion a year. All right, that's what we pay right now. All right, that could come way down with a job guarantee. You estimate all the for-profit police apparatus, for-profit prisons, the social effect of all of this. The families breaking up, mental health costs, suicides, all of these different things. And then just look at one statistic, the lost output. By targeting 5% unemployment, we are targeting, we're under capacity by 5%. There's trillions and trillions of lost GDP, trillions and trillions. It's artificial scarcity, all right? And it kills just like bullets. This stuff is no joke. Our wages have been stagnant since the 70s, while corporate profits, productivity, and cost of living are sky high. That means there's so much more supply than there is demand to buy that supply. Our economy's all out of whack. And then, so people have to go into tons of private debt just to buy the production of the top and survive. And because private debt always dries up, this leads to booms, busts, and bailouts that only help the rich. All right, and government has to move into a huge deficit position anyway to help the rich. But it doesn't help anybody, just like '08 when they bailed out the banks. Yet we're still not recovered. We bailed out the banks trillions of dollars. If they would have instead, gave us a federal jobs guarantee, we could have, easily bounced back from this. Obama actually came out and said, and told us, people are mad because they want the government to bail them out. But when we give money to the big banks, $1 gives us 8 or 9 more dollars, a multiplier effect, blah, 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 blah. It's right-wing neoliberalism. They starve the economy of public spending, okay, and force us into private debt. All right, that's the neoliberal way to privatize the public space and, deregulate everything. And this is why our society is so dog-eat-dog right now. All right, this is why, it's primarily the number one thing is because we target unemployment. All right, that's class warfare. One simple solution, the federal job guarantee. Thanks, people. catch me Friday night. I'm going to be trying to interview John Kiriakou, the only man to do time over our torture program in America. He's a CIA guy. He's from my hometown, and I want to, he already told me he wants to do it. So we're going to be doing a show here shortly to talk about